Now, Phil, we have a former radio announcer on this station, Keith McGowan, enjoys travelling all over the countryside. Many towns he would have been in would have been the same towns that would have been visited by Nigel from Nigel's Animal Rescue. Hello, Nigel.
G'day, Simon. G'day, Phil.
Well, I know you're a mate of Nicholas Swift, the outback legend.
Yes. I went up to Cooper Pedy with him for his birthday a few months ago.
Yeah.
You do get around a fair bit, don't you?
I certainly do. I took my car in last night for a service, and the service manager said to me, "You're only here 5 weeks ago." And I said, "Well, that's right. How many kilometres do you think I've done in 5 weeks?" 5
weeks isn't a little long. I'd say, I don't know, 10,000 for you.
10,500 kilometres around Victoria.
In 5 weeks.
Dealing with animals.
Yeah.
It's a big place we live in.
And speaking of animals, it's the snake season. They're no longer hibernating, are they?
No, certainly the snakes are out and about. So when you're out there in your garden and cleaning up rubbish piles and lifting up tin, just make sure that you're wearing nice, big, long, thick clothing that, if a snake goes to bite you on the leg, well, he's going to get you on your clothing and not on yourself.
Better yet, get someone else to do it.
Yeah, well, give us a ring, and I've picked up 3 snakes so far this season. So there's been 2 copperheads and a tiger snake.
I believe there is one thing worse than finding a snake in your house, and that is finding snake skin in your house.
Yes, that has happened to me before.
Well, that happened to Jade Hurley and his wife up at Tweed Heads.
Right, yeah.
They were terrified for a year.
No, Jade just had a skin condition. It's very insulting of you to bring that up.
There was one time there that I was in a roof and did find a snake skin up there, so I crawled around very carefully on that roof. Didn't find the snake, no.
Oh, really? Now, what have you got in front of it?
Yeah, you pulled out a Tupperware container and put it behind the monitor. It's not lunch, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not very good for radio, but I've just brought in a little copperhead snake that a cat had brought into the house, and the cat got bitten by him, and, he is pretty dangerous if you get bitten, but did you know that nobody has been recorded dying from a copperhead bite in Australia, to my knowledge?
Right?
Yet there's never been a death recorded.
Is this one still alive?
Oh, yes, he's still alive.
I'm trying to tickle his face through the plastic. I don't know if it's smart or not.
Let him be. He wants to rest.
He's only little. He's about 30 centimetres long and sort of the diameter thinner than my little finger.
Yeah, he's only a little fella. He's probably, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years old.
So if he bit me now in that current length and size, how would I react?
Well, the same as you would if it was 5 foot long.
Okay, so it's not sort of depending on the size. If it was the length of an anaconda,
not at all.
Now, what would you do with that little fella eventually?
Well, hang on, I want to know what would happen to me if he bit me.
Right, well, generally with copperhead snakes, they don't actually envenomate and sink their poison into you, so you end up with what we call a dry bite, which is why, generally, on a copperhead snake that, nobody's ever died from one, but they are very, very toxic. So they're actually born...
Meaning what, I can't lick him or something?
Well, toxic than the poison. It will kill you. Without treatment.
So if he wanted to, he could kill me, but normally if he bit me, he wouldn't bother poisoning.
That's right. They like to keep their poison for the lizards and the frogs and things that they're actually going to eat, which are very different from the tiger snakes because they'll inject venom every time into you.
Okay.
Yeah. So the copperhead is a live-born snake, so as soon as it's born, it's self-sufficient, and he goes off wandering around looking for small animals to eat. So they have to be poisonous as soon as they're born.
Okay, how interesting. Now, what would you do with that little fella eventually?
Well, he's going to be released. He'll be going back down into the area that we got him from. I actually picked him up from a vet, and so he'll be going back to the area and released.
And what's his diet currently?
Well, I haven't actually fed him, but he would be eating small frogs, small lizards, that sort of thing.
You could easily walk on one of those in the grass, couldn't you, without knowing that?
Absolutely. But most snakes will actually disappear. They'll feel you coming through, the vibration on the ground.
And they get scared.
And they, not scared, they just sort of move off into, areas away from you.
Yes, thankfully they do.
What's the largest animal he could kill? Like if he bit a horse, would the horse...
I would doubt it very much on a horse size. I would have to research that one, Simon.
Anything about the size of me, though, would be not happy.
Yeah, you'd get pretty crook from it.
Nasty.
Okay,
I've never tried it.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing... Has he got a name?
Oh, no, I don't name my snakes.
I can think of one, but I'd be too cruel. No,
I can only imagine.
Birds at this time of year in the roof, big problem.
Yeah, at the moment I'm dealing with a lot of birds that are nesting inside people's eave linings.
Yeah.
Especially in the homes in all the new estates that have been going up for the last 20 years now. All the roofs have holes all around them, and the starlings, they've been nesting now for about the last 4 to 5 weeks, and the young birds are hopping out of the nest now for the first time for flying lessons.
Yep.
So if they go left, they go out the hole and they end up outside, but if they go right, they actually fall down inside the wall cavities.
Yeah.
So people are ringing up at the moment, and I'm doing 2, 3 and even 4 jobs a day just getting birds out of people's wall cavities. So if you're listening to birds in your roof chirping away, that's great, that's wonderful, but you certainly are risking the chance of me having to come out, and quite often I've actually got to cut holes in walls to get them out.
Yes.
It just depends on which cavity that they fall down inside of, to whether or not I can get them out from the roof area, or we've got to go through the wall.
Now, today, there's birds that were flying in and out of our garage, and we found in amongst the Christmas decorations those stupid blackbirds with the yellow beaks that kill everything and everyone.
The Indian miners.
Indian miners. 2 Indian miners were building a nest just in a little space on our shelf. I said to my wife, leave it, and she said no. And she pulled the nest out and threw it on the floor. It was the beginnings of a nest.
Yes.
The nest.
Yep.
And I said, no, you should have left it there, waited for them to lay the eggs, and then destroy it. Because they're not birds that we want to have around.
No, we do have a lot of them in the suburbs, and now that the starlings are finished, it's actually, as you're saying, the Indian miners are now starting to build nests. Now, there is one good thing the Indian miner does for us.
Yes?
He picks up all the rubbish and all our litter around the streets, and they put bits of plastic, lolly wrappers, into their nest as nesting material. And I've actually even found those old tram tickets that the old conductors used to flick off and give to you. I have found those in some very old houses and inside the roofs. But that's the only good thing that they're used for. But I'm doing a lot of those which are falling down inside of Canara wood heaters at the moment and going down inside the flue of range hoods. Once again, looking for areas to start nesting, and tonight I did one where we pulled 2 out of the Canara heater, and yesterday I did another job where I pulled 4 of them, all alive, out of the heaters. So as I say, put me out of business, everybody. Seal off your chimneys, seal off your flues.
But it's not only birds, it's kittens in wall cavities.
Yeah, well, that's this time of year once again, springtime.
How do they get in there?
Yeah, well, the mother cat goes into the roof, and she has her kittens inside the roof, and they get to about the age of about 3 to 4 weeks. Mother's outside collecting her food, killing all the birds, and the kittens start wandering around the roof because their eyes are open and their little legs are wanting to go and explore, and they end up falling down wall cavities. I think about 20 years ago we did a story on air with some kittens that had gone down the cavity and made the news that night after being in here.
I think might be the first time we ever spoke to you on Nightline.
Yes,
that was shortly after I started coming in here, so yes, it would be about that time. I remember it well, and it being on the news services.
Now, if you have a question for Nigel, it's not too late. 96900 693. Anything to do with snakes, birds, or kittens, or other forms of life. I suppose a lot of people now think you're buying pets for their children for Christmas. Not a good idea unless you know you can give them 100% attention and you can afford to pay their vet fees.
That's exactly right. Responsible pet ownership. After Christmas, obviously, we get a lot of kittens, a lot of puppies that are dumped. It's an influx comes into all the different charities around. So if you are thinking of a pet this Christmas, just do make sure that you can give it a lifetime commitment. That is very important. There's one thing, Philip, that you keep asking me all the time when I come into the studio to whether or not the segment works. Well, I just want to say after last week's segment, talking about people going down to the beaches, going to the lakes and checking out all the water birds, well, Saturday morning I got a phone call about a swan with some fishing hooks in it. Down on Albert Park Lake, and but unfortunately there was a fisherman down there that had been fishing, and this swan had come along, picked up his bait, swallowed it down the hooks, and he obviously got a bit panicky about it. He cut the line and did a runner.
Yeah,
He took off. Didn't report it, but people did witness it at the time, so I had to go and get the boat, and we got Parks Victoria to come down to help me out, and we caught the female swan, and the sad thing was she had 2 cygnets.
Oh, no.
And so she went off to the Melbourne Zoo. They removed the first hook out of the top of her throat quite easily. But sadly, the second hook had gone right down the esophagus and torn it all up, and she had to be euthanized.
Oh, how sad.
Yeah, very, very sad. But as I say, people, when you're down at the beaches and down at the lakes, please check all the animals down there, because there's a lot out which are entangled in fishing line and hooks off them.
Now, if somebody does happen to be fishing at Albert Park Lake or the beach or anywhere, and something like that happens, they've not committed a crime.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't.
It's simply an accident. So don't run off scared. Report it so something can be done to help the animal then and there.
That's exactly right. There's plenty of wildlife numbers out there and different rescue groups that specialise in dealing with those situations.
Give us a couple of numbers, Nigel, before we leave you.
Right. Help for Wildlife, which is a statewide 24-hour number for any sort of injured wildlife. That number is 0417 380 687.
Yeah.
You do see the signs out on the roads with that number there. So, if you're ever driving down a road and you see a wildlife number there, please, record it, pop it into your phone, because you never know when you're going to need it.
And your number for
my
Nigel's
number
Animal
is
Rescue?
0427 533 083. And I've got one bit of good news coming up. I've got a new worker starting on Monday.
Oh, about time.
Yeah, I've been 2 years on my own dealing with it all, so I'm a bit over it, but it's going to be wonderful having Chris on board. And
bring him in next Friday if you'd like to come.
Okay, we'll see how we go.
And what tasks will Chris be doing ahead of so you can do the more interesting stuff that you enjoy?
Yes, he'll be doing a lot of the possum work, getting possums out of people's roofs, and learning all the different rescues that I do. But I've got one last thing in my box.
A surprise?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got a little surprise. I've just pulled out a little baby seagull 12 months ago on a Friday night. Before I came into here, I think I actually brought another seagull in who had been fallen inside of a wall cavity down in a factory down in Port Melbourne. Well, they had another one fall down a couple of days ago, and they couldn't remember or couldn't find my number. So the guy remembered, that's right, he talks on 3AW. So he Googled 3AW Animal Rescue, found me somewhere on there. So I've been down there tonight, had to cut a hole in the wall to get this little baby seagull out.
He's so tame.
Well, he's not really tame. He's pretty hungry. I've been feeding him since I've had him.
I've never seen a baby seagull before.
They're quite cute, aren't they? They're all spotty and motley. They don't look anything like a seagull. So he's off to one of the wildlife shelters, and he'll be raised and looked after.
Shame on you in the past for eating seagull sandwiches, Simon. I hope you feel very guilty.
They're delicious.
It's thanks, Nigel. We look forward to next Friday.